I got pregnant with another man's baby. This is going to be a bit of a long post, so to anyone who reads the whole thing, thank you, it means a lot. Also, this contains heavy topics, so trigger warning. So my husband and I's marriage has been rocky from the start. I found out about a week before the wedding he had done inappropriate things while looking at pictures of my mom, my cousin, and other friends of ours. And he had been doing that for a while. I decided to go through with the marriage anyways, and things got bad pretty quick. He was yelling at me a lot, angry with me on our honeymoon because I caught the flu. He stopped wanting to be intimate with me, and his reasoning when I asked was, "I just don't want you anymore now that we're married." I didn't handle this well at all. I admit I screamed back and threw our wedding rings outside, and we never found him again. Anyways, after 2 years of this I decided to divorce. He moved in with his grandma for a few weeks, and while this happened I stupidly had a fling with someone else. I ended up getting pregnant with my son. We didn't know to begin with whether or not the baby was from my fling or from my husband because the dates were so close, but my husband was begging for me back every day and said that if I took him back he'd raise the baby as his own. I decided to get back with him. After this we went through 9 months of continuous fighting and getting more distant, and my husband going back to looking at porn a lot. He would get very angry with me at my pregnancy appointments because he didn't want a baby. And now that I had taken him back he was asking me to get an abortion, which I wasn't comfortable with. But in the end I had the baby and his name went on the birth certificate. After the baby was born, while I was in the hospital, my husband watched porn right next to me while I was sleeping, and he was supposed to be looking after our newborn son. I also had preeclampsia, so I was hooked up to a lot of meds and very tired and couldn't watch the baby properly. He was also angry with me while we were in the hospital because he was realizing he was going to have to be a dad. So he was bickering with me and I was sobbing while in the hospital. We end up going home and he rarely holds the baby, and I've noticed he sometimes gives the baby these angry looks, which as a postpartum mom scared me. I was worried he was going to hurt the baby. In November I tell my mom about the other man. She said I need to get a DNA test right away, and she pays for it. The results come back, my son is not my husband's. This makes the tensions between him and the baby worse, and he seems downright hateful towards the baby, pushing him away when he's near, not hard, just putting his hand on him and moving him back towards me, and dirty looks daily. On top of all this we're arguing and sometimes getting into screaming matches daily. I tell my mom about all of this and she says I need to get a divorce because it's not safe for the baby. During all this my mind is so foggy, to be honest I didn't even know my own mind. So I just take her at her word and I leave to go to a domestic violence shelter. He has kicked me, squeezed me, and pushed me over before. That's how I qualified. While I'm there I slip into a bad depression, and I let my mom take the baby. My husband apparently also was depressed because about a month after being there he tried to take his life and ended up in the mental hospital. I immediately came back to take care of him. I stayed for about a week and the domestic violence shelter told me I wasn't welcome back, so I went and picked up all my stuff. Now I'm back home. During the month I was at the DV shelter I also had rekindled an old romance with my high school boyfriend. Over text, not in person, he lives far. But I felt so bad that I was basically doing the same thing I had done the year before, when I got pregnant. So I just cut things off with him yesterday. I decided to give things another shot with my husband and he seems to be doing better and he's promising to go to therapy. Since I've been back, about a month or so now, we've only gotten into a couple of bad fights. A major improvement for us, but my son is still with my mom. I feel like a horrible mom and my baby is now bonded to my mom, and when he's sad he reaches for her, he sleeps with her in her room, all of that. Even when I visit, also, she offers to let him sleep in my room with me and tries to get him to go to me, but he isn't as comfortable with me now. And my heart is just broken completely. My husband is promising to be a better dad and says he's come to terms with the fact that the baby isn't biologically his, but I'm very nervous to bring the baby back, worried he might emotionally abuse him. I would appreciate any advice or thoughts y'all have to give. Thank you for reading if you made it this far.